I'm the Big LG Doc Gallows, and you're watching the Wrestling Junkies. Boom.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Wrestling Junkies Podcast. I'm Mr. Cincinnati. Conspicuous by his absence is the podcast dad. He's had a bit of a switch up with the work schedule this week, so he is unavailable tonight. But we appreciate everybody's patience. It's been a week where things have kind of been all over the place, and we've had to pre-tape a couple of episodes this week, but greatly appreciate everybody's patience with us as we live the dream and the gimmick. So without further ado, we've got an incredible guest tonight, and I want to really get into that conversation. So as always, if you could, follow us on X and TikTok at Junkies Pod. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Junkies Pod. But most importantly, please do us a huge favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're at 586 right now, so we're so close to that next milestone of 600. All that we ask is that you tell one person. If you love what we're doing here at the Wrestling Junkies, send a link, share it with your friends. Costs $0 to support us and what we're doing here. There's plenty of room at our table, so please pull up a seat, come hang out with us. The conversations are phenomenal. And where would we be with our friends at the Main Event Wrestling Network? You can give them a follow at mainevent_net on all social media platforms. If you love incredible live blogs, podcasts, watch-along streams, gaming content, you name it, we have it. It's been an incredible 2026 for all of us here at the Main Event Wrestling Network, and we've got some things in the works over the next few months that you guys are going to love. So stay tuned and be active in those chats across all of our platforms at mainevent_net. And we did just launch our Twitch stream as well. The fact checker is in this chat right now. Thank you so much for joining us. And Mr. Ramsey, good to see you tonight as well, my friend. Without further ado, I am so excited to introduce this next guest that we're just getting right into it. Because tonight I have the privilege of being joined by somebody who has a truly unique perspective on professional wrestling, because he didn't just grow up watching the business, he grew up living it. My guest is the son of one of the most legendary figures to ever step foot inside the ring, WWE Hall of Famer Harley Race, an 8-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Harley Race was not just a champion, he was a standard bearer for what it meant to be tough, respected, and truly great in this industry. His influence spans generations, from his time in the ring to his work as a trainer and a promoter, helping shape the future of professional wrestling. Excuse me. But tonight we're going beyond the accolades. So I'm sitting down with Justin Race to talk about what it was like growing up around wrestling royalty, the man behind the legend, and the legacy that continues to live on today. And we'll also dive into Justin's own journey in and around the business and hear stories that you simply will not find anywhere else. So junkies, pull up a seat and help me welcome to the show, Justin Race. Justin, how are you, my friend?
Mr. Cincinnati, what's going on, man?
Not too much. I don't think that I can truly articulate what it means to have you on the show tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, the honor is mine, sir. The honor is mine.
Well, let's get right into it. Let's start at the beginning, because your experience is just something that very few people in wrestling can relate to. So if you could, tell us about what your earliest memory is of realizing your dad's not just a wrestler, but an absolute legend.
Well, there was kind of steps. I mean, first of all, I had to figure out what the heck he was doing, because when I was a little boy and my mom and dad kind of had a little private conversation, we go on because we travel with him, all over the country. And should we go to the matches tonight or what? And if he's wrestling Abdul the Butcher or Bruiser Brody or whatever, Mom and I were going to see a movie or putt-putt or something. But I got a little older and mistakes were made. And, you're out there, you're watching your dad get hit over the head with metal chairs and bleeding and blood flying everywhere. And it's traumatic.
Yeah.
Very traumatic when I was young, because I didn't understand. All I saw, I show pictures of people with dad blood running down his face and this and that. And he's hugging my mom and I, and I'll caption it, "This isn't a good day at the race house." And my dad looks like he just went through the windshield of a car doing 150 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And my blood's on my mom and blood's on me because hugging him and whatever. This is a successful night at the race house. So many people can say something like that.
So what's normal life like growing up around the wrestling business? Like you said, you've had to kind of have an idea of when you go to shows, when you don't. What is normal within that world?
Well, once I got old enough and I started figuring out that, and my dad tried to explain it to me, but I saw it better in action. It was good that people hated my father. In fact, when I give speeches and stuff nowadays, one of the first things I say is, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hating my father so much. Made him one of the best heels there ever was, and the money followed. So I just thank you for hating him.
What's it like to go to school and be around kids that probably watched wrestling and knew of your dad and only knew the character that they saw? Was that ever anything that you ever encountered in school of people that legitimately hated your dad for not knowing kind of the ins and outs of the business?
Well, I was fortunate to be in the same school district. It's like one of the number one school districts in the nation. And I was there from first grade to when I graduated from high school. So I developed friends, however old you are when you're in first grade. And I developed these friends over these years through the high school, and they would come to my house. And my father was the big dude that made chocolate chip pancakes in the morning after we had a sleepover to them. All for years, people will ask me, about my father or whatever, whether it's Hogan, Vince, or any other name in the business, my dad is referred to as the king or the boss. And people will, ask me more questions. I'll say, the only people that ever called him Harley were my friends. Harley, can I get another pancake? Harley, can I get another piece of sausage? Harley. And the funny thing and what they got used to about my father is, Flair, I'm coming to Greensboro and I'm taking my belt back. And kids, it's time for breakfast. All sound the same. That voice, now it doesn't hit that. He just doesn't turn that on when the camera's on.
Yeah.
That was his voice. Justin, breakfast is ready and you're late for school.
It's such a unique voice too.
Oh yeah. I mean, a lot of guys mimic it. They, the cadence thing is Justin, breakfast is ready. He just, I mean, if the building was burning down around him, he isn't going to rush. If he's got a camera on him, he's cutting a promo. There might be a building, all on fire, but he'll sit there. So in 1968, when me and Larry and it's like, dude, the house was burning down here. He was just the most. I mean, I think in a lot of respect from the business, from the guys in the business, comes from that. Harley was Harley. There was no second Harley, third Harley, gimmick Harley. Yep. A Harley Race was Harley Race. And in fact, even now to this day, back in the dressing room, if someone gets a whooping put on them or, finished with a hard suplex or a straight up suplex or whatever, back in the dressing room, they'll walk back in the dressing room and they'll say, "You got Harley, didn't you?" I never knew my dad's name was a verb. Harley. You got Harley, didn't you?
If you, often imitated, never duplicated, especially in the wrestling industry. I mean, I think he's number one with a bullet of the influence that he has, but there is just no one that does quite what Harley Race does.
Putting it in like a business type world setting, your customers are always first. And those are, the customer's always right and this and that and whatever. But to earn the respect of your peers to the point that you ask them to do anything in the ring and they'll do it. And then he'd tell them whether they did it right or wrong. So, yeah. Being in the ring with my father was like, well, what was your question? I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. What was your question?
No, that's okay. I went off on a tangent as well there. That's all.
That's why. Well, that's why my book, the Don't Tell Your Mother book,
no.
it's been in a couple years of creation. That is the name of my book, Don't Tell Your Mother.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what it sounds like. Dad and I do it. Don't tell your mother. We went fishing with dynamite. Don't tell your mother.
All right, you can't just gloss over that. Tell us about fishing with dynamite with Harley Race.
Oh, all right. Bronwyn, Billington, Dynamite Kid's daughter. Yeah. Her and I were, when she first, I sent her this chapter of my book. It's called Dynamite. She thought I named it or Dynamite Kid. And she thought I named it after my father or her father. And I said, I gave the accolades to him in the title, but the story was actually in 1975 or 6 or something like that. My mom and dad bought a lake house down at a lake in south central Missouri. It's called Lake of the Ozarks. Very big lake. In fact, because of its river-esque way it flows, it actually has more lakeshore miles than Lake Michigan.
Oh, wow.
And just a little lake down in south, in the middle of Missouri. So, hold on for a second.
Yeah, of course. Take your time.
Sorry, allergies are killing me.
Quite all right. Yeah, take your time. I get it.
So, where were we?
Ozarks.
Oh, what the heck was I talking about?
Dynamite fishing.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
all right.
I hope you can edit some of this out.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, it's all good. It's okay.
I've been hitting the head a lot my times too. So anyway, Dad Mom buy a lake house, 1905, 6, 7. I think it was 5 or 6, 1975 or 6. And you buy a lake house, you take your only son down to the lake house. What does he want Dad to do? Teach me how to fish. All right. So Dad goes out and buys the bass boat and all the equipment, the depth finders and the fish finders, and the moral of the story is Dad, I don't know if he'd just flown in from Japan, Australia, somewhere, but we went down to the lake house and Dad, time to go fishing. It's 5 a.m. I got home from Australia last night at midnight. But still, the fish bite now. Oh, all right. He was like the kind of dad that complains, but he'll do it anyway because he knows he's going to do it anyway, and he knows he's going to make you happy. He just has to make you suffer a little bit to get there. So we go out 5 solid days in a row. Didn't catch a fish, not one fish. In fact, my mom started playing a joke on us when we come in after 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. She'd already have bacon and sausage and stuff cooking because we weren't bringing home any fish.
Yeah.
So Dad says, one afternoon, he says, I'm going to town. Going to town means you're getting in the car, up above the lake, and you're actually driving through and I knew where he was going. He was going to this hardware store. Now, this hardware store for years sold him black market stuff out the back door of all kinds of stuff. Where we lived on the golf course in Leawood South, our main house, the golf course kept killing my dad's tree. There was like an electrical box, and Dad put some junipers around it, and the golf course drainage kept draining all the water down and killing my dad's trees. So Dad went to the hardware store and got himself some Chloridane. And that's a pretty funny sight to see your dad running around in Bermuda shorts at 3 o'clock in the morning, spraying the golf course with Chloridane. You're going to kill my trees? I'm killing your golf course. So anyway, he goes to this store, and he also got, illegal fireworks, all kinds of stuff from this hardware store. who he was. They sold it out the back door of the store, and no taxes, whatever. So he comes back. Next morning, I get him up 5 o'clock in the morning. All right, Dad, let's go fishing. And we get down to the boat, and I'm putting the rods. And what the hell are you doing? I said, well, I'm getting our gear ready. We're not fishing that way today. I said, all right, how many other ways are there to fish? And he puts his big old bag down next to him. So we take a pull into that cove. All right, so I pull in there. He said, he looked at me. I didn't even know what the heck was going on. He said, now when I say hit it, you hit it. I said, all right. So he reaches into a bag, pulls out a big old like rock with a 3rd stick of dynamite duct tape to it.
Yeah.
He lights it, go, throws it over the side, boom. I threw the throttles to the stops. I mean, across the lake, boom. And I'm still scared to death. Finally, what the hell are you doing? Trying to drive us back to Kansas City? Turn around. All right. So, turn around, drive back into the cove, and there's like 15, 20 fish just floating on the surface. They're not dead. They're just the concussion of the explosion knocked them out. And I'm looking at all these fish. Oh, man, I've never seen. Wow, what do we do? And I hear this behind me because he always let me drive, sit in the front seat and whatever. He said, hey, what? I look back and he's handing me a net. One of those nets with a handle on about that long. Yeah. Hand him a net. He said, are you gonna fish or are you gonna sit there? And so I started scooping the fish up with the net and throwing them in the live well. And on the way home, finally he says, how the hell am I going to explain all these fish to your mother?
That was going to be my follow-up question. Did she hear the boom? How did
she react? No. I mean, that was, I'm sure he said it, but at some point in time. But yeah, once the dynamite was released, don't tell your mother. Yeah. He was, I mean, well, and you hear the stories from the guys, like the crazy things he did with the guys on the road.
Yeah.
He and I did some of the craziest things too. I mean, there's not too many 7-8-year-olds that get legally involved in things. Like, for instance, going 163 miles an hour down the freeway with a 6-year-old in your car.
Yeah.
And you leave the situation signing autographs for the police and them telling you, the guy looked at the speedometer. Mr. Race, do you have any idea how fast? Well, the speedometer was pegged at 150.
Oh, my gosh.
I was like, why lie? And the officer said, sir, you were going 163 miles an hour. You were tripling the speed limit. 163? Really? I saw you. I was letting off. Like, I was going faster than 160. And I didn't, so the officer, I mean, they set up one of those Smokey and the Bandit roadblocks across the freeway, nose to nose, police, all the cops drawn with guns on the backside of the cars. And of course you see that and you slow down, and they came up around the car, and they're all have their hands right there on their hips, and one of them break, like 10, 15 of them, kind of semicircle the car. And he walks up, looks down the driver's side window, goes, Mr. Race, do you have any idea how fast you were going? And that's how the story starts. Well, the speedometer is pegged to 150. So anyhow, he gives out some autographs to the guys, and no ticket, no warning, no nothing. We turn around and we're on our way home. He looks over at me. Don't tell your mother. And I never did.
Gosh, I love that.
Well, the interesting thing about the book is that there are many stories I'll tell on like a podcast with yourself or something, and I'll hear from my mom the next day or two. You guys did what? And I'm like, I'm like, he didn't tell me, tell your mother when you're 35 or 40. He said, don't tell your mother. So I never have. And he never told anyone either. Those were my father and I. I'm writing a book about some of my father and I's adventures that no one knows about, or some things that no one knows about. Because I asked him when I got older, I said, all the stuff about don't tell your mother. I suppose you have fun telling the guys in the dressing room about our little adventures. I don't tell anyone. You didn't ask me, you goof, but I told you, don't tell your mother. That means I don't tell anyone either. I was like, all right, cool. And I'm going to actually put a forward in my book on that because, that's pretty cool. I'll tell stories, and the guys that think Ric Flair, one of his best friends, he's going to read a couple stories in this book and go, I didn't know Harley did that. But it was with his 7-year-old son. You go to school in the morning and you're sitting there in class. Class starts at 8:15. Justin Race, come to the principal's office. I'm like, I don't think I did anything wrong, or at least I don't think I was caught anyway. So I go to the principal. There's Dad standing in the office. He looks at me and winks. You have a doctor appointment. All right. So he signs me out of school. We get out and we went fishing for the day, or wandered around the woods, or did whatever we wanted, just have fun, dad and son. And about 4:30 or so, no cell phones, of course, is this. He'll stop by a gas station, payphone. Yvonne, I'll pick Justin up from the school. Okay. So we roar into the house about 4:30. How was school? Oh, it was a great day. And he looks at me and thinks, don't tell her. I'm like, are you kidding? I'm not telling her. But yeah, he used to, because he wasn't in town a lot.
Yeah.
And like I said, I people always kind of, I don't know, I want to say feel sorry for him or whatever, but it must have been hard to grow up with such a famous father, but never be able to see him because he was always traveling. But that's not true. Back in the day, the promoters, whether it be Sam Mushnick, Shonai Bubba in Japan, Ron Miller in Australia, one of the Grahams in this, it didn't matter. When the promoters were working my dad as a traveling champion for wrestling 300 nights a year, an hour a spot, an hour a show, but they knew he was a family man. So the promoters actually paid for my mom and I to travel with him a lot when I was a boy.
Oh, that's awesome. So
when people say you must have missed spending time with that. No, I spent a lot of time with my father. It just wasn't at home. It was in dressing rooms, or the Melbourne, Australia Zoo, or, you name it. We've been there and we spent time. So we've actually, I don't know. I don't want to disparage anybody that has, a great relationship with their father, but it was really interesting how ours developed, because we're, rather than talking about the next Chiefs game, Dad and I are standing in front of the Tokyo Palace, and we're listening to a guide tell us about the history of the palace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like a different way to get to know your dad than just sitting around talking to him. We did a lot of sitting around and talking, but it was normally in another country.
Yeah. That's such a unique experience that, again, only in select industries, wrestling or entertainment along those lines, are you going to have children that have those experiences with their parents.
Well, there's very few true individualistic sports. Swimming, except for the relays. No, of course there's relays.
Yeah.
Swimming, wrestling, track. There's only a couple of sports, golf, where you make success or you lose, and it's all up to you.
Yeah.
And so that's a different mentality. And with the wrestling business, how volatile it is. And I mean, the wrestling business, that some of the fans, well, maybe not so much today, but some of the fans back in the day, in the 70s and 80s, would just killed my father as seeing him walk another step. And it's like, man, This is a sport. We all relax.
Yeah, seriously.
But they are seriously, I mean, many times after Dad, especially in the Carolinas, when Dad would wrestle Rick, whoever one of the two of them was always the champion, normally Dad, and he'd beat Rick or whatever, and Dad would sit in the dressing room, and he was notorious because he had that afro, that curly, I mean, he had the pick to prove it. And he'd sit there and he'd pick his hair and he'd pat it down. What the hell are you doing? I'm waiting for all those thousands of people out there in the parking lot ready to throw rocks at me when I walk out the door to get bored and go home. So, I mean, hour, whatever. But when we did leave, we would be surrounded by police officers with their riot shields held over the top of us. And I'm 7, 8, 9, whatever. I'm a kid.
Yeah.
And they're throwing rocks, knives, forks, dirt, anything they could think of to throw at us. And, at the time I thought it was kind of cool. It's like Secret Service around us and whatever.
Yeah.
But as I grew up, I'm like, you people are throwing rocks and knives at a 7-year-old?
Yeah. Because
his father beat your guy? Y'all need to find a second job or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was amazing. And, you grow up like that, and that was normal to me. That was a Tuesday for me.
What do you think Harley would think about the average wrestling fan today? I mean, tribalism is still very much a thing when you've got WWE, you got AEW, the independents are thriving right now. What would he think about, wrestling fans and kind of their appreciation or fandom for the product these days?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. I would think, and there's a lot of ad libs that had Dad been alive and still wrestling and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But just looking at it right now, I would think that my father would be most disappointed in, like, when the WWE, if I'll give you an example, when WWE comes in town here to Kansas City, I call up the people in New York and can I get 4 or 5, 10 tickets, whatever, to the show? And And the last one I went to, and my mom, been in the business. I mean, she married my father in 1968, met him in 1966. She was with him when he became Mad Dog and Harley Race and all the world championships. I mean, well, they were married for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
And I forgot what I was saying again.
Just about what he would think is as far as today.
As the guys nowadays.
Yeah.
So they, we went to the show, and this is Monday Night Raw or something last time they were in town. And I usually go down in the dressing room and hang out with the guys and just, talk to them. And the newer guys always want to meet me because they want to know, what time did your dad go to the restroom every day? What did your dad eat? I mean, the little young guys, they just want to know everything they can find. Why did he wear the left knee pad on the right knee and the red knee pad on the left? I mean, I'm like, I don't know. You think he paid attention or just pulled them on? So it was a mystery. And when the guys, God dang it, I'm trying to tell the story and I can't remember the top of it.
No, that's okay. Take your time. Yeah.
Well, there's about 1 million of them running around in here right now.
That's okay. That's a nice problem to have for sure.
But anyway, what was I talking about? My mom and
talking to wrestlers last time that WWE was in town, and
so we went down there, and it's 30 minutes, 45 minutes in the show. I looked over at my mom. Well, the first thing that and I've seen it on TV, but to see it live, you walk into the building, and there's a 10-foot ladder sitting in the middle of the ring. And I'm looking at it, I go, what the hell does that have to do with wrestling?
Yeah.
Dad and Ric Flair, Dad and Terry or Dory Funk, Jack Briscoe, I mean, name it, they could do it. Put people on the edge of their seats for 1 solid hour, and they didn't have a ladder in the ring.
No.
It was 2 people actually combating to win. And so you see this, and it's like, my God, this has become a cartoon show. And you go on and all it is the stars coming out. I mean, I went down there and I talked to a couple of them. The stars coming out and telling you what they're going to do next week. I'm like, well, are you going to wrestle now or not?
Yeah.
And so I don't disparage the WWE. They've been very grateful to me, gracious to me as far as, contracts and stuff like that with my father's memorabilia and stuff.
Yeah.
But the product, though, I mean, in a 2.5-hour show, I probably saw 15, 20 minutes of wrestling, and about 5 of it was good.
Yeah. And
these people are just going crazy in the stands. I'm like, you haven't even seen a wrestling match, and you're about to pee your pants. All you've seen is a guy or girl on a mic saying what they're going to do to whomever next week.
Yeah.
And you're with your signs and cheering, and I'm like, wow, the psyche of the fan has just, it's different. But you know Definitely. What? I bet you, and this is where I know this from, if Dad walked into the ring maybe 30 years ago, and they put their best little Seth Rollins or whoever they wanted to put in that ring, the first thing that would do would be Seth would crap his pants. The second thing that would happen, Dad would look up at him and, I'm running the match. So that would be the second crap in Seth's pants. And then they might lock up. And I mean, it'd be ridiculous. Dad used to say these guys don't know a wrist lock from a wrist watch. So, the fans, though, I mean, again, and what you said about the fans and what they like or whatever, there was you remember, I don't know if you remember, but Memorial Hall in Kansas City.
No, yeah.
We're 4 hours from St. Louis, and during the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s, St. Louis was the capital of the wrestling world.
Yeah.
And so we're 4 miles from there. The only town, Kansas City, is the only town that my father has actually cheered for. They don't hate him here.
No.
That's probably because they live next door and don't want to piss him off.
Right. He's not somebody I would want to see in a dark alley at 2 a.m. So yeah,
unless he was on your side, then you'd be thanking God.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of conversation about your dad, but you're not just part of the legacy. You created your own path. Tell us about your decision to step in the ring and that conversation with your dad.
Well, it was really interesting. It was right after Dad won. It was June 10th, 1983, when Dad won the 7th world title, beating Flair and beating Lutez's record of 6 world titles. So he became, the best, the GOAT, whatever.
Yeah.
And he didn't take that lightly. He was the champion's champion. He carried himself like a champion. And he told Rick, or he taught Rick how to be a champion, Ric Flair. how to be a champion, how to carry yourself. And now Rick, he went off with a Rolex wearing, Learjet flying, that was his thing. And he was a master at it. But that's different than walking through the airport carrying your wrestling bag and people recognizing you.
Yeah.
He's not going to go woo in the middle of the airport. He's going to have an adult, or if it's a kid, a conversation with you and talk to you. So when you walk away from my dad, from Rick, from Andre, whatever in the airport, you don't walk away with their gimmick. You walk away with a true feeling of that person. And you got to know that person, that fabulous superstar that you think of as a real human.
Yeah. That's so important because, especially in today's day and age, we hear about wrestlers, having interactions with fans to where it is, those lines are crossed in airports, and those, airports and restaurants, kind of the handful of places that wrestlers want to be left alone as they're trying to catch a flight and go to work and do their thing. So, there really has been such an evolution as time has gone on as far as how those interactions look.
But there's always the humility, and Dad always said this when the people would come up and interrupt dinner for the autograph or whatever. Yvonne, you don't stop. You don't worry about when they ask for autographs. You worry about when they stop asking for autographs.
It's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Dad taught me, in those things, the people would come in. My dad would look at my mom and, Yvonne, that person paid for this meal. That person pays for your home. That person pays to send our son to school. If it wasn't for those people's butts in seats watching me wrestling, we'd live in a tent. So you respect those people. And as I got a little bit older, Dad taught me the 5-minute rule. The 5-minute rule was, he sat me down. Son, you're going to run into people that are going to recognize you, recognize me, all your life. It's not going to stop. But I tell you this, unless you're on your way to the emergency room because your arm is cut off, or you're late for a very important meeting or work or whatever, you stop and you give that person 5 minutes. You let them tell their stories, let them tell their opinions, tell them some stories. Just let them go. Let them have their fun. Yeah. He said, you know why you do that, son? I said, why is that? He said, because it's 5 minutes they'll never forget.
That's something you see, especially now. Cody Rhodes is a great example of that, and being the QB1 for WWE right now. And regardless of what fans think of him or his presentation, that very much that old school Dusty and Harley and Flair, very, very direct influence on how he carries himself during those meet and greets and those interactions.
Cody and one other guy and my dad are the only ones to ever have won the King of the Ring tournament and been an NWA champion.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like you were talking about before. Is it 6 and 5? 5 wrestlers that are inducted into all of the major Hall of Fames, and Dad is one of them. The WCW, NWA, WWF, the National, the News Observer, the one up in I don't know. He's in the Missouri Broadcasters Hall of Fame, and I remember he was alive when that happened. This is a long time ago, and he opened. And you have to excuse my language, folks.
No, it's okay.
Well, it isn't a Harley story if you don't talk like Harley.
Yeah.
I'm being honored as a broadcaster. Yvonne, what the fuck is this? She read it. She's like, well, apparently you're being inducted into the Broadcasters Hall of Fame of Missouri. And he's like, I never broadcast a goddamn thing. I just on TV. So, Dad, my mom and Dad had a very funny relationship because, I mean, she knew the business. She knew my father. She knew when he was hurt, when he was not hurt, and her favorite, because my father was so ornery. I mean, with her or not, he was going to have fun with me, or he was just one of those guys. We got on a plane one time. We're going from Dallas to Miami, and then to take a cruise, like for an actual vacation that Dad didn't have to wrestle on. And so we get in the plane in the front in the first class area. He opens overhead bin. There's these little straw hats sitting there, and of course below in the seats below, there's these two little old ladies in their sundresses, and they're ready to go to Florida. So Dad puts his thing up there and closes the thing, sits back, buckles the seatbelt. I'm sitting next to him. My mom's across the, or I'm sitting across the aisle. My mom's sitting next to him because I always had to sit in the aisle seat like Dad, even though I was a young kid and was really wanted to look out the window. I had to be like Dad and sit on the aisle.
Yeah.
So they start backing the plane up, where people can't get off. Dad leans forward toward the old lady seats in front. I wonder whose straw hats those were I just crushed. And he sits back, and that's the only thing he said for the entire flight. And Dad is notorious for not talking. I mean, he's just a silent. Yeah. He walks into the room, he commandeers respect, but he doesn't say anything. Yeah. And that's all he said. And often in situations like that, he'd say something hilarious, and that's the last thing you'd heard from him for 3 hours. So anyway, he says the ladies are all. And my mom's favorite thing to say to my father, because he did stuff like that so often, was, Harley. Wonder whose straw hats those were I just crushed. Harley. She was like a mom / wife. Every time he did stuff, and I'm sitting there cracking up every time he does stuff. I mean, I'm laughing my ass off. My mom, Harley, you're teaching your son. I'm teaching him some good things, aren't I? So he was, of course, we get to the airport. The ladies' hats are fine, and he didn't cry or something. But it's like who says that?
Yeah.
And then doesn't, okay, you say it, but then you within a couple of minutes say, I was just kidding, ma'am. Nope, he sat there. What in the plane? Let him think they're rats or crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Rick did an interview with Flair. Did an interview with Joe Rogan, and there were several times they talked about my dad a lot. In fact, I want to talk to Joe about being on his show, but he had Joe laughing so hard because it's just story after story after story, and Rick telling him and whatever, and Joe didn't know what the hell to make of my father when when Rick was talking about him. He's like, you watched Harley Race pull a guy's eye out of his socket in a bar fight? Joe's like, holy. I mean, Joe said plenty of F words in that whole thing. And Rick, the thing about Rick was he was a peer and equal, but yet my dad was his mentor, and he looked up to him very much. And many times during it's hard to explain my dad. He'd just say to Joe, you just don't know Harley. You got to know Harley.
Yeah.
Hey, Harley did that. You just got to know Harley. And then Joe's like, he hit him with the arm. He pulled his eye out. Haku bit some guy's nose off in a bar fight, all in the same fight. Dad walked into a bar, and Ricky'd say, my father was the only one to call Ric Flair Ricky and Ricky Steamboat Rick. And neither one of them ever said anything like corrected him or whatever. That's just how it went. The guys knew that if Dad was talking about Ricky, he was talking about Flair, and if he was talking about Rick, he was talking about Steamboat. And again, with the respect that he had in the business, they just accepted that. And, okay, whatever Harley says.
Love that. I mean, that's there are very few that command a respect like that, and I mean, these have been such incredible stories, and I want as we kind of end our conversation here or near the end of it, talking a little bit more about the book. What obviously there's the stories from your childhood growing up, but tell us a little bit more about kind of the reflection on these stories and preparation of the book. Why was now the time for the world to hear these stories?
Well, I've been wanting to write a book called "Don't Tell Your Mother Forever." I mean, just since I originally Dad and I started doing this, him pulling me out of school and dynamite with fishing and all kind of being stopped. I don't know how many times, going well over 100 miles an hour. I mean, nowadays, imagine getting stopped going 140 miles an hour with a 6-year-old in your car. You'd never see that kid again.
Nope.
Back then, they just want an autograph. So it's like, well, let me hear that again.
Yeah, of course. So why did you feel that now was the time to share these stories?
Over the last, I don't know, 10 to, I mean, I haven't been in the business, but I have my own family, I have my own businesses that I run and whatever. And once Dad passed away, I mean, there wasn't really any, I didn't foresee what would happen with technology. And 5 or 6 years ago, I started noticing when I'm getting 20, 25-year-old guys coming, your dad's my favorite wrestler. I'm like, you weren't even born when he retired. How do you know my dad? YouTube. And I'm like, oh. So I started looking into it, my free time, looking into YouTube. I'm like, my God, there's a lot of stuff out here on my father. And then Vice TV did a documentary on him called The Dark Side of the Ring. Yeah. And I had no idea my father was so popular. And I'm thrilled because I growing up, I saw him as the largest thing in life, as the 8-time world champion. And he's the king of the ring, the cock of the walk or whatever. And then Hulkamania comes along. It's like, wait a minute. My dad taught that guy how to wrestle.
Yeah.
And and as Dad said, Hogan had 2 moves, a clothesline and a big leg drop. And coming from my father's mouth, otherwise he didn't know a goddamn wrist watch from a wrist lock. So often when I post things, when I talk about my dad and Rick and Dory and Terry, I always put in parentheses the Terry Funk. I'm talking about real wrestlers.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's how it goes. So, you move forward because of the respect that you have for your father. And the respect, what did you asked me something specific, but I want to tell you something else. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course. It's just, why now was the time to share this?
Oh, now I'm sorry. I keep forgetting the now.
It's okay. Yeah, of course.
So anyway, so obviously I've seen the popularity growing with this and that and whatever. So I started posting a couple of pictures of, Dad and me fishing, or Dad and I. And I started noticing after a couple months that I was getting millions of views and thousands of comments.
Yeah.
Because no one ever knew that Harley Race wasn't the meanest, toughest, badass son of a bee ever walked the planet. They didn't know he was the most father on earth. I mean, my greatest memories of my dad when I was a little boy, he'd lay on the couch on his side watching TV, and I'd lay on top of him right here.
Yeah.
Little boy. And his heart must have beat I don't know, 20, 30 times a minute. But when it beat, it sounded like a timba drum. So, I mean, talk about put you to sleep.
Yeah.
You just lay there and you look at that heart rate and that big, huge breath he'd take in, and he'd knock me out. Watching, people don't. I just found out that not a lot of wrestlers have written books, and I'm sorry to say they're all very similar story: rags to riches to rags, and and injuries and this and that along the way and whatever.
Yeah.
But because of Dad and who he was, I felt I had a unique opportunity in showing someone that was clouded in mystery, but yet people knew he was a nice guy, but they also were scared to death of him, and they didn't know what triggered him. I don't want to piss him off. He's being nice, so what do I not say?
Yeah.
So it just came about as the more I was posting, the more people asking for more and more and more. And I had the idea for the book for a long time, and I started finding really people interested. And I got to thinking, don't tell your mother. How many people at wrestling business or insurance salesmen haven't said that to their children, or their children or been told that? Don't tell your mother. Don't tell your father. And I was like, heck, this is a good, the title of the book is a good eye catcher for anybody. Yeah. And then they find out it's about Harley Race. So I just, it just seemed like things started piling up, and things started just growing and growing, and I'm getting more and more. And I'm, like I said, millions of views and this and that. And I'm like, you know what? I've redefined, this is 4 years. I've redefined my goal in life. And my goal in life is to make sure that my father's memory is remembered forever the correct way.
If you had an opportunity to have one more conversation with him, what would you say?
Don't die. He was pretty much out of it at the end. If I could have if I could have one conversation with him, and he was a healthy, we could do whatever we wanted or whatever. Yeah. I would probably ask him if we could go back out in the woods and wander around, because we had some great conversations whether we were hunting or just wandering around. I'd like to hear my dad say I love you one more time.
I think that's something that we can certainly all relate to.
I would sacrifice 20 years of my life if I got to spend one more day with my dad.
When fans think of him, what's one thing that you hope that they never forget?
Well, it depends on whether they liked him or not. Probably toughness. I mean, when Flair or whoever did that forearm slap across the chest, and he did it to everyone, but when he did it with Dad, you could hear it in the top. You could hear that smack in the top of the rafters. There was no holding back. There was no, when Dad was wrestling green kids, when he was in the 70s or whatever, he'd tell them, punch me. And they'd hit him, and he'd kind of roll out of the ring and do a good sell and come back in. He's like, all right, now punch me. They'd hit him again, and he'd roll out. And he'd finally, all right, the next time, if you don't throw a fucking punch, I'm not going anywhere. I'm standing right here, and I'm going to hit you back. And so then they'd lay into him, and he'd catch it off the jaw, and he knew how to catch him. And he'd crawl back in. No, that's a punch.
Well said. I can't think of a better way to end this conversation. Justin Race, thank you so much. This has been an absolute honor and a privilege. And before I let you go, where can everybody keep up with the stories that you're telling about your father?
Oh, I don't hide
media?
myself. Facebook, Justin Race, Instagram, Justin Race. I mean, I don't hide. I'm out there. And I'm happy to hear from anyone, and I'll answer anybody's questions.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you so
Very
much.
rarely, I find out from a lot of people that very rarely do they send a text to a celebrity type figure and get a response. And I actually try to respond to people.
I love that. And I'm sure that the questions are only going to continue to come, especially after this conversation. And again, just so appreciative of your time.
I challenge someone to ask me a question and catch me off guard.
You heard it here. You heard it here, everybody. That's I mean, anybody that can do that gets a free T-shirt from us. So just
there you go. There you go. Right.
But
well, man, it was really. I had a wonderful time. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine. Could not be more grateful. And thank you to everybody that has joined us this evening for this conversation.
Yes, thank you all, folks.
Ask that you like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're having a whole lot of fun here and continuing to bring conversations like these. So we'll be back tomorrow with a new episode breaking down AEW Dynamite and previewing the weekend ahead. Thank you guys so much. Justin, as we sign off here, just stick around for a quick second. But for Justin Race, I am Mr. Cincinnati. This has been the Wrestling Junkies Podcast. And until tomorrow, enjoy those.
Thank you, folks.